now is I've gone in and hurt everybody's feelings on the front end and said, guys, we're all in this mess together. We've got I want to do it backwards. I want to do something a little different than we've done for the last 35 years. I want to present a balanced budget, and then if they want to add things back in, well, we got $1 million worth of paving. Well, we had $2 million. I want to add another $1 million. Okay, how many people are you going to lay off, or are you going to have a tax increase? So we try to get you, the alderman, a budget that you can say, okay, this is balanced. This is where we are. Well, I thought Chief asked for 26 cars. Yep, he's going to get 10. Sorry, I can't give him any more. And again, the comment the Chief and I had very casually was, Chief, if you want 5 or 10 more cars, you're going to have to lay off somebody. Well, I can't lay off anybody. I understand that. So that's why we got to go this route. So what we're trying to do in the long run is get you people, aldermen, the 3 of you and the other 10, is a balanced budget to say, okay, this is where we are. We can live with this budget. Now, here's Andy Gilley's parks list of what we have whacked away. These are all the things we've cut out. Okay, so well, I'd really like to put those utility vehicles in the park back in. I'd like to put that lawnmower back in there, whatever. So, okay, that's great, but what else are we going to take out of here since we've got a balanced budget? So kind of, I think it's better for us, and again, and part of this has been created because of the Zoom, because we can't talk to each other like this conversation here. Yeah. And say, okay, you know, we got $2 million over budget, what are we going to cut? Now we're zero balanced, what are you going to add back in? And what are you going to take out if you're going to add that back in? So we've tried to leave in whatever we can. We've tried to move projects that are not on the books yet to another line item. We've tried to move projects, for example, in the hockey rinks. We've got to relocate them. We have no question we have to. Well, it's going to cost $1.2 million. Well, the big picture here is, do we put a cover over them and do tournaments and bring revenue in and tourism in, and let's move $2.6 million. Well, Robert's got a separate bond issue before you for the budget to do hockey rinks and a bunch of other projects. Okay, so that takes those out of the budget. Okay, now we can't pave and we can't buy police cars out of that bond issue. But so we've tried to take what and I'll be honest with you, we started a month, 6 weeks ago, we were $14 million in the hole. The first time we met, I thought Andy was going to have a heart attack when he said $14 million. How can we be $14 million in the hole? Well, the department has requested $6 million more than last year. COVID causes $3 or $4 million worth. We overestimate our revenues last year, $2.5 million, and guess what? We're at $14 million. I mean, it's just the facts are there. This is what happened. Okay, this is how we got here. Now, how are we going to fix it? The best we can under the circumstances right now. So, Rob has done a great job with being able to move projects around. I know he's met with Marshall 4 or 5 times the last 2 days about moving some of his projects that are out there 10 years. You know, Saunders Ferry Pedestrian Trail or whatever is down there. Okay, we don't know when that thing's going to start. Okay, so I think he's moved that to another project line item that's kind of out there. It doesn't affect the budget. So I hope that kind of answers your question, Eddie. Is we're trying to give you something that you can say. You could go up there and say, okay, we can live with this right now. Let's just pass it. We don't like it, or we can say, listen. And what I ask the department has to do too, is Andy and Marshall in here, is to put down all the things that we cut out. Okay. Okay, so let's just say in Andy's case, there's 15 things we cut out of his budget that he really wanted. Big items, small items, whatever. Make a list of those so when it comes to the budget meeting and somebody comes up with something and says, well, we got an extra $50,000. Okay, Andy, what's your first priority? Well, it's this, and it costs $27,000. Okay, maybe we'll think about putting that back in. So we get a priority list of what we need, what we'd like to put back in, if at all possible. Now, if the economy gets better in the fall and y'all as aldermen come back together and say, listen, the economy's going great, we're booming, knocking it out, we're ahead of sales tax, we're going to go back and look at some of these priorities in each department that we want to put back in.
Yeah, we can amend the budget.
We can amend the budget.
Exactly.
And so that's kind of what I'm looking for, just like with the pay. No cost of living, there's no merit in there. We left the longevity, but there's no merit. Well, I'd like to make a suggestion in the budget meeting Tuesday night to look at it January 1 of the merit increases. It's I think I'm speaking for the employees here.
That makes sense to see that, because then we'll know by then what our finances will be.
Exactly.
That's not a bad idea.
Well, I've asked the employees, would you rather have a cost of living January 1 or your merit? And 8 out of 10 of them will say merit. because that moves you up on the steps.
Sure.
Okay, in your long-term longevity working for the city. So, it's still the same thing. Say we put 2.5% steps in there, make it retroactive in January, it's 283,000 plus or minus, and of course, the cost of living is like 650. So I think the merit increases, which the employees would rather have, put that back in January 1, if the budget is okay, you guys come back and meet again and put that back in. And then you say, oh, listen, we got another 250,000.
Yeah. So let me make one last statement, then
Yes,
I'll
sir.
shut up.
Yeah, good.
You
So,
don't have to.
so I have seen in my short-term tenure on this board that it seems to me that one of the first things that is picked on, and I don't say that pejoratively, negatively, but one of the first things that is selected when we have problems with the budget is paving. So it's important to me that as we go in this budget process, that we have some built-in rainy day fund or an expected end-of-the-year balance. I don't want to go in with a complete balanced budget with a zero rainy day fund. I call it a rainy day fund, or you know what I'm talking
Yes, sir.
about.
Yes, sir.
Because what will happen, I'm afraid, is if the economy slips, and every indication that it's going to be better than expected, look at the market today and unemployment numbers. But if it slips any, the first thing that we're going to select in order to pay our bills is paving. And I'm just telling you what my constituents are telling me. We need to put money in paving. We need to do more paving in the city. The roads are crumbling, so.
We do more than we ever have.
Do pardon?
We're doing more now than we ever have.
Well, that's an indictment, I think, on the past.
I agree.
But I'm part of the present. And
I agree,
I want to
but-
make sure.
And I've been pushing us that way the whole time I've been here. More.
So, Dave, I just wanted to make that preference.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be looking at things, and sometimes I may say, well, is that more important than what the citizens want for paving? That may be my determination of whether I support this project or that project, because I think that we need some kind of rainy day
Well,
fund.
and part of the issue too, Eddie, and I think we all understand, Mickey feels the same way about his police cars. He feels like the first dead gum thing that goes is his cars, okay? And then Chief Bush said, well, we got a fire apparatus at $850,000. We can wait another year. So every department feels like, and Mr. Gilly over here feels the same way, there's certain things that each department has that seem to go first. And it's just the way it is. The thing about the paving is it's such a big ticket item and a single line item like paving, $2 million, like, whoa, we can get into that. Cars, $52,000 each times 10 is $1 million. Well, guess what, or 500,000. So the long and the short of it is there's everything in everybody's budget. I agree with you. I think there's still $1 million, if I'm not mistaken, Robert's not here. Is there still $1 million left? Okay.
So you add $1 million, you got $2 million.
Yeah.
May I speak on Fire Hall number 2 and the bump in the road that happened there that caused us to tap into supplemental paving?
Yes, sir. I wasn't here, but
I know you
I'd like
wasn't,
to
and
hear
I
the
don't think
story.
Eddie was here either. But what happened there was we had a nice little capital projects meeting, and we were going to bid it out. We were going to go design build, I believe is what they call it.
That's
Going
correct.
to looking to save some money, and that was under our former capital projects committee, or director, I should say, or our public works director. Anyways, he was wanting to go to run design build, which the architect had started off drawing up blueprints and everything for design build, and had it bid out. And we had one person bid it, which was Olympian here in Hendersonville, and it was summarily thrown out because we only had one bid. Now, in the state of Tennessee, if you're building something that's $2.5 to $3 million, you really need more than a bidder. You need 3 or 4 bidders to show up at the table. And then having gone through the design build process, we also found out that the only thing the state of Tennessee would allow design build on is schools. So we had to throw that totally out. We've already spent the money for design build, but now we've got to go back and do lock and key type design on it, which is totally different than design build, which added another year basically to the process from the bidding process. And at the time, Nashville's in a boom building, and every month you can look at $100,000 being added to the cost of this fire hall. And I even made a comment of that at a meeting. I said, guys,
did.
it's
Yeah.
$100,000 a month added to the cost tag of this building. So we get to where we bid we bond $2.4 million, I believe it was. And, okay, we got our money. Wait a minute, it's taking another year to get there. You just go ahead and add another $1 million to the cost of that building. We bid it, we had like 6, 7 bidders show up for the bid, and we selected the one we went with. And here again, we're at $3.4 million, I believe was the original bid. Then it come back that we had to have a contingency fund of $400 set aside for unexpected items that needed to be added to it. And then, since we had $2.4 million, we were close to a new budget year. Well, we went ahead and signed a contract in December, January, and we said, well, we're so close to a new budget year, we'll add the additional funds in the next budget year. But then the state of Tennessee come back and said, no, you've got a signed contract. You have to make it whole before you can move forward, and you've got 60 days to make that decision. And then it come back, oh, well, they'll just build a shell and cut out half the building, or we'll redesign it. Well, every time you start redesigning it, you start talking more time and more cost in cutting it down, because you've already got a signed contract with a vendor who can, by law, and since you signed a contract, sue you for the difference. I've seen it happen. I've seen people sue cities, municipalities, because they want a contract. The city pumped the brakes in the middle of what they were doing. What do you mean you're not going to pay me? Oh, yes, you are. You just paid them for nothing. They got paid, and then you went and did what you wanted to do and paid again. I've actually seen that happen. And then that's why the cost went up. And then to make us whole, since we had a signed contract, that's why supplemental came into play, was because Chip stepped up and said, hey, guys, we need 1.2 to make this whole. I've got it in supplemental payment right now. Here it is. And they went through the budgets and looked at stuff, and that's where it came from. Even the fire department gave up $80,000, I believe it was, for cameras or computers inside their fire trucks or some of their equipment, $80,000 to put toward the contingency fund that they needed the $400,000 for. And that's why we're at where we're at today, at $3.8 million. I've seen people on Facebook, which is hilarious to me, screaming $6 million fire hall. And I'm like, where did they get these numbers from? Are they that stupid? I mean, really, people? Somebody's handing out some false information there big time.
Now you know why I don't do Facebook.
I know that. And I just look at it and I shake my head and laugh. But the sad part is, so many people are taking that information as fact and not fiction.
Yeah.
And the sad part is, it appears that some leaders are putting some things out there that are questionable to make even another crowd of people go, things to make you go, That's one of them. So anyways, that's how we got to where supplemental paving. But I remember Darrell Woodcock, when I first became an alderman, he made a comment. He said, I remember one year we had a 0 line item for supplemental paving. 0 in the line item. That's Darrell Woodcock. He said that to me, and it's always stuck with me because I said, really? He said, yep. He said, if we spend $250,000 a year, we're doing something. $300,000, $400,000. I said, that's right. We kicked that can down the road for 30 years. It's now time to catch up and pay the piper. And I've always said we need to spend $2 to $3 million a year. I'd like to just spend $3 to $3.5 million, to be honest with you, until we get everything where it needs to be, and then maintain that $3.5 million in that budget for supplemental paving and add a cost of living increase to it, because it's going to happen. We all know it. And just like you, I agree with you. We got to get there, but we're getting there. It's just not as fast as everybody'd like to get there. And we've had another bump in the road here over the virus.
One of the reasons that I haven't gone after that other million, okay, because I know that we need to do the roads and paving, okay? And I think a little bit's better than nothing. Talking to Tim Ellis in Goodlettsville, they're in the same situation. He's cut out paving from like $3 million to like $600,000. He just said we don't have the money right now to do that. And he said we may get that before it's all over with. So every city's in the same shape now. If we were blowing and going, and these guys over here had all their tournaments and events and everything with the sales tax was coming in, we would be having a little different conversation. But I'm hoping that we're in a situation now that we've cut enough that we can leave that $1 million in there, and then if we see we can add some later in the fall or whatever, over the winter it gets better, I'm okay with that. You know, I wouldn't want to go to 0. Okay, I think we'd be making a mistake by going to 0 with no paving at all next year. Now, if it comes down to it, if the COVID comes back in the fall, and there's still $500,000 of paving that we haven't used yet, then we may have to get that. Again, there's so many factors right now. Again, changing gears, I'm okay with the East Department kind of give an overview. Marshall had just a few minutes to give an overview of his. You guys can, You can go line by line if you want to, you can go just do an overview of each department, I don't really care
Yeah.
how y'all wanna do it, kinda see where you are.
That's fine, that's what we'll do, because that's what we've always done in this
Right.
committee. But Alderman, I always say Alderman Gelly on there, but our Parks Director wanted to add a few words to that point.
Two quick points about the fire hall and the paving, because I was sitting up there and voted on it. We were told point blank that we could bond 2.4 million.
Yep.
And then come back in another year in the next budget and put in the budget the remainder to cover it.
That's exactly right.
At the same time, we all sat up there and we put in the bond for supplemental paving. And we all said, this is crazy, we're never gonna bond for paving ever again, we're gonna
Right.
put it in the budget.
That is correct.
So when it came time to pay that extra, I think most people felt okay about it because we had bonded for paving and left the supplemental line item alone at the time. That's where all that started.
Yeah, and
I don't know if everybody's not aware of that at times.
I wasn't.
That is exactly how it came to pass, that we had to go get supplemental paving money out of the operating budget to put on the fire hall, but in our back pocket, we had bonded for paving.
Right. That's
Which
correct.
we all looked at. Steve Brown looked at me, he said, I'll never do this again, but we're gonna do it now because we want to get up to 2.8 million, I think was the number we were trying to get to.
And I'll tell you something else, Eddie. And, and I hate to say this, but it's the truth, and I can cite many instances and evidence of it. I reminded them that years ago we did that bonding, and we were still paying for it, and we were getting ready to resurface. So we need to, if we're going to err on something, we need to do it by caution, because we've already been down that road, and but we had to do it. We had to go back through a bond to pay, to get the money. So, and and it was a dilemma to me, and I supported it, and I still would to go back over it. But I do want to say one thing about the paving, and this is on record. Since 1987 or 6, I'm not sure which, but I know that for a fact. And I don't know of the 4 years I was gone and then came back. I was blessed enough to come back to this committee. We've always tried to support and give as much to paving as we could without cutting the throats of everybody else in the city. And we've always done that. And that was before you came. But I wanted to let you know that, this committee just doesn't sit here and say, okay, run over us. We've always tried to stick up for paving. We've always tried to stick up for public works. And, excuse me, that's not Corona, by the way. It's this water. I'll never get it again. But
Keep a
anyway.
cigar you're smoking before you.
Yeah, I should. I'll start smoking, I guess. But, and Pat's been very good, and you have too, especially this committee we have right now has been really good about sticking up for paving, because we've always gotten the hell, and I don't mind saying this, the hell beat out of us every year about paving. And then when it says, okay, we're ready to move on paving, but you all need, the rest of the city needs to give us some money of the rest of the aldermen, and they don't, when they go, whoa, wait a minute, because they have their, there's other projects that go, and it's not fair, it's not right. So, keep that in mind when you do that. Okay.
Can I just mention one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead, because this is important.
Since I am Capital Projects Committee Chairman, what I would like to see the city do is come up with a fund for capital projects, that we start putting X amount of dollars every year into it, and that we start knocking off our capital projects in-house instead of always waiting on the state to step up. I think anything under $2 million in cost, like red light synchronization for one, that we ought to really think long and hard. Do we want to go through 10 years of waiting on the state to approve everything and all the hoops we have to go through, and all the documents we receive for permission to proceed? We get a bunch of those, and then all of a sudden we get hit upside the head and said, oh, we got to go back 10 steps because we skipped something down here that somebody decided to do an audit or whatever, caught it, and now we're going back trying to correct an issue that should have been, it was 5 years ago, it was approved. What do you mean going back? So personally, I would like to see us come up with a line item in our budget for capital projects moving forward that is maybe 1% of the entire budget for the city of Hendersonville. And it would be money there that could be helped pay the engineering studies, landfill, whatever needs to be done to get things moving, continuously putting money in that fund and have, if we build $3 or $4 million up, hey, we need a new fire hall. There you go, your money's right there. Need a new fire truck. There you go, your money's right there. You need some more police cars? Got it right here.
Well, that may be something that you might be able to discuss in capital projects with
Yeah,
us.
I
And then
just-
speak with Dave about it, because that's a good idea for a lot of reasons. I mean,
It's just something I look at and I'm like, I gotta do better. You can do better. So
and
anyways,
we've got,
that's
we've
just
got
my
a
quick,
very, and we do have a
my
very-
quick throwing it out there. Let's move on with what we gotta get done here, 'cause
Andy, you want to go ahead and start first with your little, like what Dave said a little bit, and then we'll get with
Can.
Public Works. And,
What else want water?
I'm good right now, thank you.
Before I go to the operating budget, if you look on, I don't know what version you all have.
2.0.
If you look on page 71 of your packet, what is on your page 71?
This is the first, whatever I have written there. And
Page
what,
71.
71, hold on.
I have what Marshall just gave us.
I do too.
Do they have most,
It's from June 1st. So it's
That's
what,
pretty
it's what-
accurate.
it's what, it's what Robert
New
emails.
capital and
so
special
page
projects. request.
71,
Parks.
All right.
between the time you all had the second budget workshop and today, that your page 71 should be blank. Is
It
that
is.
right?
Thank you very much.
Exactly.
So all parks capital projects have been taken out that were on this page. That's over $2 million worth. So that in the whole budget, there's not one parks capital project at this time.
Andy, how much from your original proposal, and I've asked Robert this, but from your original proposal today on kind of the wish list to today, how much have you cut?
It's close to 3 million
Okay,
when you talk about new positions
everything,
and projects and
Everything.
operating expenses.
around 3 million
I
you've
think
cut.
so. I don't have that exact number, but
Okay.
it's around that. So I just want to bring that to your attention too. Also, in the government grant, there is one thing for parks in the governor's grant,
What page is that on?
page 72,
Okay.
$30,000 to help towards LPR cameras.
Yeah.
The paving at Memorial Park's been taken out of the governor's grant as well. So, now if you want to go back to 27 and 28,
Well, I'd like to ask the question about your capital projects that you've taken out. Because because what you do in budgeting, whether it's for this budget or bonds, is you set priorities. So of this list of things, could you give me a prioritization of what's the most important for us if we do have money come back in January that you would think that we need to fund? On this list, can you give me 1 through 10 of your top priority projects?
my personal, if you're talking about paying for them out of the general fund or through a bond,
Just importance.
well, the inline hockey has got to be relocated.
So
yes.
that's number one.
There's no question about that, because that determines when and if we can do the flood protection plan at Mary's Place.
Okay. Number one.
In my personal opinion, and this goes back even to when you all had the Hendersonville Horizons study, the turf, converting some more of our fields to turf, I think is a huge priority for our city to continue to be able to bring in what we need to bring in event-wise. Other cities around us have it, and we're starting to feel the heat, and Dallas can speak to this if we need to. If we don't get 3 or 4 put in somehow, either convert what we have or add to our arsenal, we will start to lose people. No doubt about that.
Would you like to see us do the quad there where baseball is at? If you could get that whole quad converted to baseball?
No,
or-
and it has more to do with the way the fields were built in the first place. The
Okay.
place to do it is at Veterans Park.
Okay.
That's what we've gotten a quote on and looked at. That's the best place to do it.
So that's going to artificial turf.
Yes.
Is that right?
Correct.
All right, that's number 2.
Number 3, for me personally, and for our department, would be the Parks Master Plan. And you know, I think we will get by this year with some of the grants we're going to apply for, but going forward, we will not be able to apply for some state grants or have a chance to get them without having an official master plan done.
Okay.
That's an item that I think could be easily added into an operating budget at some point during the year if it's not bonded for. That's my opinion. After that, the tennis courts, I mean, they're
Been there a
yeah,
while.
they're falling apart.
So they've
I
been
mean, I'm not
there
gonna lie
for,
to you.
Yeah, and just
4
kind
years.
of, I don't
Yeah.
necessarily need, an explanation.
Yeah,
If you
I mean,
just-
that'd be next.
Okay,
The camera project, we've moved to the governor's grant so that you can kind of take that off your list. And then LED lights continues,
number 5,
I'd
they're
say
number
so.
5,
I'd say so. I mean,
okay. Number 6,
I believe I've covered them all.
well, what
about
about
the-
golf
Yeah,
cart?
that would be
So
good.
it's lower down on your
That
priority?
line item on this page is for Country Hills. What
You're
got-
talking
What about,
golf carts in your budget.
No, he's talking about on page 71,
It's got parks,
where it says
golf
parks,
carts.
golf cart replacement. It's talking about Country Hills.
What
Well,
about athletic field construction, volunteer park?
That we don't even have a price for yet, so that's got to happen at some point, but
Sure.
got a lot of
But-
things
but
happening over there.
I mean, you're looking at the parks, the golf course is under the parks.
That's the
Board.
way this was written, yes.
So are you saying that all of these other projects are more important to the operation of the city than the golf carts? I'm trying to understand your prioritization of all the things that are listed by parks.
I don't view I personally do not view the finances of the golf course as under my purview. I think that's an overall city discussion. I think my job for the golf course is to be a liaison and help them navigate. So if you're asking me to prioritize the golf course over the Parks Department, I'm not comfortable with that. I think that's a separate issue totally.
Yeah, I kind of agree, we kind of need to keep that separate. Now, my discussion here is that, was it 175,000 for the golf carts
Right.
at Country Hills? You requested for golf carts for the park and maintenance vehicles for the park too, which would probably be priority number 6 as far as your,
Yeah,
yeah.
maybe, but that was in, that, golf carts for our department were in the operating budget. On this other
Okay, you
page.
just talk about capital projects?
Yeah.
Big projects, okay.
You've answered my question.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Any other questions on that? I'll go back to page 27, 28. Since you all met and not reflected on the copy you have, we eliminated, up in salaries, we eliminated a promotion. We cut as y'all, Alderman Robertson requested, the golf carts for our department were cut out, 24,000. And in doing that, we did add 5,000 to maintenance of equipment because we're going to have to replace every seat on the ones we get from Country Hills when they give us, and also some brakes and tires will have to be replaced on those, and batteries, I think they said.
Yeah, those, the back seats that lay down with it.
Yeah.
So you can put four
So
people
we
on a
cut
golf cart.
24, but added 5.
Yeah, they're gas carts, right?
They're gas, but they still have a battery in
Need
it.
to start it.
So we did that. We also cut, if you look on, well, let me find my professional services. There was a typo on line 824. That was only supposed to be 12,500, and it was listed at 22,500. So we cut 10,000 out of that. We cut back travel and training back to what it was this year.
Say 24 hour would be 12.5?
824 went to 12.5, yes.
Okay, thanks.
To go, not to get out of order, so if you want to just go line by line, in 644, we cut 24,000. we had already cut from gas, advertising, inmate, maintenance of buildings, maintenance of parks, ADA, recreation, other, and supplies and tools. We had already made those cuts. And then we cut more from maintenance of parks when we met the other day. We cut another 5,000 out of there.
Quick question, how often do we use inmate crews for the park?
The inmate crews?
Yes.
Every single day, but
Well, I'm
right
just
now
curious.
the program's on hold.
All right, well, I was just curious, because I've heard some people, we don't utilize, and I've heard other people say, yeah, we do, so I thought I would ask you why.
They're in there every single day.
Every day, okay, that's good.
They're
Glad to hear
huge.
that.
That's a huge problem right now because we usually have 4 guys plus our staff doing all the weed eating from the jail.
Okay.
And we don't have it.
Is that from the sheriff's department?
Yes, sir.
So the sheriff's department is cooperative when you need help on using inmate crews?
Yes, unless
Okay.
we need their inmate crew help. We have our own kind of little system.
Yeah, I knew that we had an inmate crew. I've been in Franklin for some ball games when I was coaching, and they had inmates that actually ran their concession stand. I couldn't believe it.
No, we will not be doing
I
that.
thought that was crazy, but I thought it was wrong to even have them there, because, I mean, here they're in their black and gray outfits. You knew inmate, and he's sitting there in the dead gun. I'm like,
See,
really?
people
Yeah,
when
they
they come
check
when they
out
come in the park, they would
Well,
never
they
know they're
commissary.
inmates because we dress them in parks t-shirts. They would never know that
Yeah.
they're inmates.
Does the city judge require some infractions that come before him, community service, and do we utilize those people? Do we have a
Okay.
relationship with Judge Lincoln?
It's on the list for most things that require community service. Working in the park is on the list of things they can do.
Okay.
And anytime we catch somebody doing something like 4-wheeling or whatever, we'll give them the opportunity to work it off usually.
Well, I know my son, he was in high school, and one of his classes, he had to do like so many hours of community service, honors class or something. And I got in touch with Chip, and he said, yeah, come on down here to the Public Works maintenance show where he washed trucks. He cleaned out trucks, the big trucks they use. So I'm like, yeah, man, it'd be nice to see if we could utilize that type of, my son, he washed the windows here at City Hall. He was out here washing, going around the building, washing the windows one day. So, I mean, there's a number of high schoolers, 17, 18 years of age, that have to do community service as their part of their classwork stuff. And, it's time consuming because the teacher or whoever or the employee here has to write down that Jordan Campbell was here from 8 to 4 or whatever, working, washing windows. Yep, he did. And it takes your time or one of your employees'
Yes,
time.
we have
A
one.
lot of times, to
maintenance
answer your
employee.
question, Eddie, and this is, I don't want to put a negative twist on it, but a lot of times when they get these, they'll give the kids 30 days to do 10 hours, 12 hours. And inherently, the kids will wait till 2 days before, they'll call us and say, I got to get 12 hours in over the weekend. And then we have to supervise them. Well, we're not necessarily have somebody coming in, or we got 75 teams coming in for a baseball tournament, we don't have time to fool with them. So a lot of times we'll say, well, we don't have time to fool, and then they get mad, say, well, the judge said we could work in the park. Well, you should have called us 3.5 weeks ago, we could have helped you. So trying to get these kids supervised, because we can't let them do certain things, like we can't give a 15 or 16-year-old a weed eater and say, just, hey, you know what, take off down through the soccer fields with a weed eater. They got to pick up trash or something very menial, maybe paint something, but inherently, they've got to be supervised, and they wait till the last minute. That's kind of.
Well, is that something that you could talk with the judge about?
Let's say, get
That this is the problem? Could you
Yeah.
tell them if you work, you have to have, so many hours this week,
Yeah.
and just kind of structure it a little better?
That would probably be good, yeah. This is starting back court, I think, next week. And so they'll have smaller sessions, but it's a good opportunity,
Make a
but it's
list.
also the other side of the coin. We got to be careful who,
You also know a young man who did some vandalism in a pickup truck down there that he had to get you a truckload of sifted topsoil, which was $600 for that little truckload. I brought it down here to you because he called me up, wanted to know what he could do. I said, I don't know, but let me find out.
if we get those guys,
And I told him,
They go to
"Son,
juvenile
I'm gonna
court?"
say thank you very much when you leave there. You understand me?
I'd be glad to answer any questions kind of is what it.
The travel and training, Andy, on here, it's got that you requested $10,000 for training. and it's budgeted for 10,000. Has that changed?
It went back to 8
Eight.
as of yesterday.
Can you kind of tell me what that training and traveling is for?
We just have our state and national conference that we attend, where we go as an office staff, and we have multiple times throughout the year when our maintenance staff goes to different trainings and gets certifications and things like that.
So of the two, the state or the national, which is the most important?
We've never been to the national, and they've canceled it for this year, so that's why I cut it back to 8.
8. And how many
Our
people-
department just joined the National Association for the first time since Dave left last year, so we had not.
And how many people would be utilizing this $10,000 or $8,000 for the travel and training for the state conference?
For the state conference, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5.
That's in
Usually.
Nashville or somewhere.
Moves around. This year it's in Lebanon. Last year it was in Chattanooga.
Okay.
They're still in talks if they're going to have it or not.
They have not canceled it officially.
When is it scheduled?
It's scheduled for November.
Okay.
And then another thing with that is there's a few employees like myself who are certified, so we have to keep up our certification. We have to do so many trainings or so many educational opportunities throughout the year to keep our certification.
Thank you. And you've taken out the ADA compliance?
No, we didn't take it out. I had requested 2,000 extra from what we had the last few years in anticipation of the ADA plan that we're going to have as a city. But I think that's going to be a little slower moving than I thought. They've told us that the parks is going to be a big target with the next phase of that plan. So I was trying to get ready for that, but I think we got a little more time, so I cut that back to 6,000.
And I have more questions for Marshall when we get to ADA. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you.
Anything else for Andy?
I noticed that we had, on the electric part of it, the buildings went up $20,000.
Yeah.
One budget year we go from 191 down to 175. Now we're back up to 195. So I'm just curious. $20,000 is.
When Dave came back, the electric line item, when he came back as an interim, the electric line item was kind of out of whack,
Okay.
and he moved it up to about 200, I think, not this past year, but the year before. And then it came in at 190 that year.
Okay. So you
And
just
then, so last year when I did it, we were asked before we came in to our budget meeting with the mayor to pick 2 line items that we could cut from. And that's kind of what we picked, electricity, because it's been kind of an up and down thing. So we just cut 25,000 from that.
Are you guys recognizing some savings from the LED conversions?
Yeah, so far.
Yeah.
I was wondering about that.
This year, now, I would say this year would give us a true test of that, but now, this year's electric is
Is out
going
of
to
whack
be
just due to.
way out of whack because we've had the lights off for 2 months.
That's right.
So it's kind of a shot in the dark right now.
On the special events, we're increasing 50,000. What are we getting extra for that 50,000 that we didn't budget for in the current year?
If you look on page 31, it lists everything on there. One of them's the TSSAA state tournament, 20,000 that BOMA approved for middle school. I added a little bit. I added another probably 15,000 to what we spend at Christmas time. We've been spending about 15. I added 15 more, so that's 35,000 there. And then the miscellaneous events. There's so many things popping up almost daily where people are asking for our help with, which are good for our city. I tried to just add some money for that. Also added 10,000 to the hometown jam estimate, but in reality, I think what I'm going to end up doing probably is spending that extra 10,000 on the 4th of July to help us do something pretty unique that I can't really talk about because we're live streamed and I can't announce it yet right now, but I will be able to hopefully after 1 o'clock today.
What's the Christmas on the Farm concert event?
That's the one you asked me about, I think, on the Zoom meeting. It was David Phelps with the Gaither Vocal Band, working with Holiday Fest to have a concert at the Beatty Farm underneath the big tent.
That would be, I guess, in December.
Yes, sir. Week before
So
Christmas.
this is a new one. That's a new
That
one.
would be new, yes.
So I guess, my advice in looking at this, Dave, that if you have to come up with some additional cuts, I would suggest looking at the special events. They're all important, but if we have to make cuts or lay off people, I would look at special events. Sometimes when you're in a budget crisis, you may not be able to have a party. And I know these events are important to the city, but I'm just saying that could be one area that you might want to look at if we have to come up with additional cuts. It looks pretty bare boned to me other than that. That's about the only area that I could see that we might be able to make some cuts at in an austere year.
Again, some of the events may or may not take place, depending on what goes forward with the COVID and everything. So, we're going to try to put up as many events and bring as many people in as we can, but they may not even take place.
And if we still have a COVID problem, we don't want to bring people in.
Yeah, that's true.
Because they may be coming in and bringing the virus.
Those are the issues.
Too.
Yeah, things are going to be, no matter what, they're going to be different. I mean, the days of a general admission, everybody just show up, stand elbow to elbow, are probably over for a while. And you're talking about putting a stage out in a grassy area and putting circles on the ground where you and your family can sit, and then 10 feet away another circle. That's what people are looking at this
They
point.
didn't have to police it.
Or not. I mean, we're not policing Jonathan's right now. It was packed last night. So, I don't know.
Thank
I
you.
mean, the only other thing I would say, and I've sent this out in email and I've told you guys, the average budget for a department of a city of our size is $4.8 million in the nation. And it's his fault because he did so good with so little for so long that it was able to stay bare bones for so long. I mean, I'm just being really honest. I think this situation the last 2 months, our parks have been what people leaned on for some kind of normalcy. I mean, it showed me how really important it is for us to even do better than what we were doing, which I thought we were doing pretty good. But I just want you all to know that when I put something in here or ask for it, it's not just because Coach Gilley wants to have a good time. It's based on what I know we need to be doing for our people.
And let me say this, last year in the budget process, the mayor recommended an X amount of money for LED lights.
Correct.
And I made the motion to increase that.
Correct.
And we unanimously supported that, and the board did. With the problems this year, I could not support any LED for conversions.
Well,
I just
I'm not
think-
asking for it.
Well, I can't even support it in a bond issue this year.
It's not in
Well,
there.
what I had in there was 350,000. Of that 350,000, 150 was for new LED lights on the lacrosse field, which they've been asking for 20 years and are willing to help contribute financially. None of that 150 was to convert this year.
Well, I appreciate you taking it out, but I'm just saying, last year I supported, this year I can't.
I understand.
Because of the priorities that we need to set. But one last, on revenue, when these tournaments come in, do the Parks Department get revenue from those other than just sales tax revenue going to the city?
Our department collects like a field rental fee or a vendor fee, which is minimal. The impact is not direct dollars to our department. Even if it was, we wouldn't be able to spend it. It goes in the general fund.
So what do other municipals do on tournaments? is there any kind of general fee that they have to pay greater than what they have to pay here? In other
It's
words,
very
is
similar.
this a potential revenue source for the Parks Department to charge for these tournaments? $25 a team goes to help fund the park operations for these fields.
I don't think that's legal, based on what I know. We've had this discussion before. We had to kind of like, it's got to go in the general fund and then be appropriated.
Well, we'll appropriate it, but I'm saying,
Well, I mean-
you're saying it's illegal.
I'm not saying it's illegal, I just don't think it can be set up that way, to go directly to a department to fund different things.
Well, we'll take care of that, though, in the budget
Well,
process.
let me tell you what we do now. If a tournament comes in and they have 100 teams, they pay the city a field rental fee of X amount of dollars per field per day, plus maintenance fees.
How much approximately?
$75 per field per day, and then we charge extra for extra maintenance on those different things. Then they agree with our local civic groups that use the park, such as like the Civitan Club. They will pay them $50, $60 per team that's in the tournament. The Civitan Club then turns around, or whatever group takes that money, they turn around and they invest it directly into the park. So example, Civitan last year renovated the concession stand at the main quad, $25,000. That was all from tournament revenue. And it saved us from having to put in here a capital project, or I don't know if that's a capital project, but it saved us from putting a special project of $25,000 to renovate. So we are getting it, it's just not direct, and it's a whole lot easier for us to say to Civitan, hey, we need this project done. Can you take that tournament revenue and do that?
And I'm glad, so the answer is yes. We do, it does generate money for the
It not only
parks
generates
on
money.
those tournaments.
Yes, it not only generates money that way, and then the indirect
I got it.
impact is.
I get
Hotel.
that. I get that. I'm just looking at, are we exploring every opportunity for new revenues
Yeah.
that we can to offset some of our costs? And I hope that you'll come up, once we get the inline hockey rinks, if we start having tournaments and stuff, I'm hopefully that you'll come up with a similar scheme, not in a bad way, but a similar strategy to have these teams pay into the city.
We will.
To
We've
help.
already got it worked out with
Okay.
inline hockey.
That's all.
And we've got 4 letters from national events that will
What?
come here. But that's if you cover them.
Yeah, when I was with the Fast Pitch Board, our deal was, I mean, Dave came to us back then and said, hey, we would like to upgrade the PA system down here.
Mm-hmm.
Here you go. We'd like to put in a batting cage down there. There you go. We'd like to redo the dugouts and the backstops behind home plate. We did the quads down there. So, yeah, Fast Pitch, we take money from our league, and we went out and got corporate sponsors to actually underwrite the league for the uniforms, and the fee we charged the players went back into the league, and then we turned around and put the money back into the park through the league.
That's why we're so careful who we work with, and so careful and protective of those groups once we work with them.
I mean, we just tell us what you need.
You know,
we're trying to help.
somebody might say, why does Civitan get all the money from the tournaments? Well, if we just work with Joe Blow, 501c3 that never uses the park, we'll never see that money back again.
But you had a Fast Pitch board back then. You had a Snow Pitch board. You had Civitan, and we worked together and, did things.
And that's one of the reasons when he said that, I kind of put him behind the 8 ball with our budget.
It does.
And
Dallas.
a lot of these groups stepped up. I didn't have to come ask for a soccer stadium because Hendersonville High School borrowed $165,000 to build the soccer stadium, and we didn't have to pay a penny for it, and then we got a soccer stadium. So the groups have put the money in, and that's helped a lot.
Yes, sir.
Andy, to answer one question, and I just did a little math here, because somebody asked me this several years ago before I retired, being self-supportive and taking in revenue and stuff in tournaments and things like that. Most of the park systems, and we did this a couple of years ago, to see what the revenue from each department was taking in. Most recreation departments across the state and nation take in a percentage of the budget, and it's usually between 10 to 15% of the total budget. So our budget, 2.8 million, 1,600, whatever. we took in $366,000 last year. It's approximately 13%. So we're in the national average as far as what we take in for revenues. What we don't want to do is try to say, you know what, and this is what happened I was in the codes department, okay? We're going to go ahead and they're going to collect 25% of our budget next year. Instead of $100 or $75 per field rental this weekend for the baseball, we're going to $250. Well, what that does is it scares the baseball tournaments away.
And then our street.
Okay, and they're not going to come here and pay $250 a day per field. Now, they may pay $75 a day, but they're not going to pay $250. So what we don't want to do is we want to outprice the market and not to have tournaments here. So we've kind of tweaked what we charge them. So we say it's $75 a team per day, and then the civic team gets an X amount of dollars. Concession stand has to give the city 7.5% of the gross. So we're getting little bits of funds that total is 13%, but I wouldn't want to try to jack that up and say, okay, we're going to go in 20% of our budget to help this right over here, because then it would be the other reverse in that we'd have half the tournaments. Now, when I left here in 2018, 2 years ago, in the interim parks director, we had 72, 73 events or whatever. These guys over here on the books had over 100, like 108 this year scheduled. Okay, so they're up 30 events. Okay, those events take place. It just adds to this revenue, adds to the sales tax and things like that. So the more events that these guys put on in the city, the better off it's going to be. And I'll say one last thing. When we had the flood in 2010, okay, and I've made the statement before, I guess I was naive and didn't really pay attention, okay? When the flood hits and the activity level in the park dropped off 95%, we had two fields, 12 and 13 up on the hill, the rock pile. We had a couple little events going on like that. Demas, Cracker Barrel, Black Eyed Pea. I'd go in there to eat or get some takeout or whatever like that. And I said, Dave, you got to get the park open. Business is down 50, 60, 70%. I said, what do you mean? He said, traffic at night. Just the kids, moms and dads going into practice or going into fast pitch, 6 o'clock game, they're coming out, they're going to Cracker Barrel, they're going to stop at Demas or whatever. I never realized, even in my years before that, the impact that the park had on the economy, even during the week. I'm just thinking special events. Oh, we got a special event coming this weekend. It'll bring in 60 teams for 2 days. Great. But I never thought about the Monday through Friday stuff, okay, the Civitan and the girls' fast pitch and the soccer and all these flag football, all these people, when they leave in the park, stopping to get stuff to go and stopping to get gas and whatever. And so that kind of opened my eyes to what these guys are doing now more so. We had to rebuild the park to get the economy in Hendersonville kind of flowing again. So that all being said, there's a big picture out there. We're trying to take as much money in as we can, but we don't want to scare off the teams. And these guys are putting more stuff on the books, so it's kind of hopefully we get back. I was kind of hoping this COVID thing didn't hit because I wanted to see what 108 events would do to the city, economy-wise. I mean, we wouldn't be talking about supplemental paving taking $1 million out. He'd had his $1 million, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Go ahead,
Pat.
sir.
Thank you,
Yes,
Pat. All right. Are there any other questions for Andy at all? All right. Giving us a bunch to think about anyway, and my only question to Dave would be, and you may not be able to answer it now, or you might want to wait until Tuesday to answer it, or you could answer it privately to us. In our final budget that we're going to see Tuesday night, is there a bond that's going to be on the agenda for us to look at along with the budget, or is this just going to be a straight-up budget?
I think the bond is going to be mentioned because these projects were taken out of the operating budgets and put in here. So I've requested Robert to make that part of the budget thing so that we can look and say, okay, this is the budget, this is what we've cut. But we've got the governor's 1.3 and we've got the bond, and so hopefully a lot of these projects, i.e. the hockey rinks, can get moved into another area taken out of the budget. It'll have to be discussed at some state Tuesday night, Mrs. Skidmore, just because it's part of the overall picture.
Sure.
Where the hockey rinks go.
Well, right, I know, because, yeah, we've made a promise to them on that, so.
Well, is it true that a bond will not affect the budget until the first payment would be due in the next fiscal year? Not
Exactly.
this coming.
That's correct.
So it would be
Right.
July 21.
And
That's correct.
a bond rating is good now because the TIF's paid off, and so that's good. And Rob and I talked, and we've been looking at, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 to 7 million, depending on what projects are in there. So I don't know what the final figure is going to be Tuesday night when he
Okay.
brings it to us, but he's got all those projects listed. And there's several different departments that have got stuff in there. And the 1.3, I kind of call it a Christmas gift from the state, which was great. That 1.3 million from the governor helped tremendously.
Good to
Okay?
hear that.
Huh?
Good to hear that.
Oh, I'm gonna tell you what, it was the ability for Chief Miller to buy the 10 cars. Okay, and so that's part of the deal, is that he wanted 25 or 26, and he's got 15 on order that haven't even come in from last year. That's part of the equation of why we cut him back some. He's okay with that, since he's got 15 on order. And then these 10, we'll give him 25, and those will replace the Crown Vics, so that they're 12 years old. So anyway, long and short of it is, I think we're going to have to bring the bond issue up. We're going to have to bring the 1.3 up. All these things are going to be collectively talked about Tuesday night, because they're all part of this big, crazy picture of the budget.
Right, okay, well, that's good, that's good.
One other thing I want
Yeah.
to bring to y'all's attention, because it's going to be important. We're working with Chief Bush and with Marshall, and I don't know if they've talked to you about it yet or not. At Volunteer Park, there's when you go out towards Knoxdoss Middle School and turn to the right, the horse barn is there.
Right.
If you turn to the left, we have a big square piece of land there that's part of that park that we're potentially looking at to help with a new fire hall out there, which is not in the floodplain. It would be a whole lot less site work than the Durham Farm properties. It could potentially save $300,000 or $400,000 in site work if we could make that work out with them. And
Now, have you spoken to Pat about that?
And how many acres? Yes, he has.
I have.
And how many acres is that?
I don't have this. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's plenty large
it's
enough
big enough
for
for-
multiple things to go on there. At one time, it was supposed to be a lacrosse field. There's a gas line that runs underneath it, and probably not going to make it feasible to have an athletic field out there, but we can build on it. And with the lacrosse group being happy where they are at Memorial, if we can light that and do the fire hall out there, I think it would really be beneficial to multiple groups. There would be just a whole lot less site work than what you're going to have to do at Durham Farms.
And I'm
properties.
hoping that if we go that route, and it sounds good to me, if we go that route, that we can get Bill Charles to make a nice contribution toward the fire hall, since we're not using any of his property for the fire hall. He committed, and I think in the site plan, to allow the building of a fire station, and he provided some land, but the land is not suitable.
Correct.
And so hopefully we can get him to help with some of the construction costs. I'd be willing to talk to him about it
Yeah, I think those conversations need to be had at some point
Yeah.
once
once a decision's
Well,
made.
this is,
Right.
yeah, the land that they were, of course, donating didn't really have a lot of value to them.
I know.
But, yeah, that's.
Yeah. Either that or take that land that's in the floodplain he was going to donate and put an amenity on it that we don't have. I don't know. Something needs to be held accountable for that.
I like the location of the park.
Yeah, I do too.
It's a
And I like a farm/barn themed fire station. I think that would go well with our park and
Well,
A park
the
and two schools,
advantage-
you got two schools out there too.
School.
There's a lot of advantages over that. First of all, a lot of residents don't want a fire station in their neighborhood because of constantly fire going out. So that will help, I think. But this location also allows this station to help more with Indian Lake, the commercial part of Indian Lake. They can get to Indian Lake quicker if there's a fire at Walmart or whatever,
Yeah.
It's more centrally located.
Also, the potential of the land behind Knoxdoss and Burris developing in the
Yes.
future is probably pretty high.
Yes.
Anyway, I hadn't spoken to all of you about that, but you need to know about it because I think
Yes.
it's a great potential.
Yes, it is.
I think I'm done talking now.
I didn't know that was happening. So I'm glad you guys knew about it.
Yeah, I suggested it when we were talking about, let's
Okay.
look at that. Also suggested looking at the Baptist property,
Yes.
and I think Scotty was gonna talk to the church about that. It
Oh,
may-
that's right.
I haven't heard back. Has anyone
That
heard
may
back?
not be suitable, but I was just,
I attended a meeting with some of the people with the Baptist Church. They come to the Municipal Board of Zoning Appeals.
Yeah.
And they were upset with the Baptist Church having youth rallies and events there due to the PA system. Now, they live on the back side of the property. And they didn't want to have lighted ball fields over there. They didn't want to, they started just firing off a whole bunch of different things, requests to the church. The church is saying, look, we're here to be good stewards, be good neighbors. We don't want to upset anybody. But, and I mean, we're not talking about, you know, a half acre away. We're talking on the back side of that property across the stream back there on the upside of the hill, upset with it. And I'm like, okay. So this makes it tough for the church there to really utilize that property like they would like to, because they'd like to make it ball fields and turn it into a youth, athletic facility is what they were talking about. And so when I heard all that conversation, I said, "Boy, I wonder what they'd be saying about a fire truck pulling out of there with the screaming sirens and whatnot, every night, all different times of day and night." So, anyways, I think the volunteer park location's actually going to be much better than all the other locations.
Well, when we talked about it before, we're looking at the other side of the park property.
Mhm.
This backside is probably a heck of an idea. There's a wetland on there that I don't think has salamanders. That that would not prevent anything from being built, but I think we could turn it into kind of a stocked fishing pond idea to go right beside the fire hall. We used to have Norman Farms back there that
Yep.
some of us that grew up here fished at.
Anderson Road down there.
It would be kind of a
Ah,
replacement
that
for
brings
that.
back some memories.
Best friend lived right across the street from that.
Yeah. That's why I thought of it. But
Well, I appreciate you telling us as a committee as a whole, and me personally, but I do remember that now when we started talking about it, how that was discussed by both of you guys, actually. If there's no further in discussion, it's getting back in the swing of city politics now. With all this, since all this virus stuff going on, is there any further discussion with Andy? All right, hearing none, thank you for your overview of your budget, and I appreciate it, and you and David, you've done a lot since the
They're
first.
not real happy with me, but they.
Yeah, I know, that's why I didn't say one way, but there, you know what, we're at,
It is what it is, guys.
yeah, I mean, this is the worst I've ever seen, as far as our
It
country.
wasn't just this, it was
Yeah.
this.
So let's just, the only thing now we've got to hope is this stuff doesn't come back in the fall, like everyone's
Don't even
thinking
talk
that
about
it
it.
will. And let's just hope it doesn't. Marshall, you ready for us?
Yeah. Yeah, ready. What, start, central services. It's on
What page?
Page 18. And of course, obviously, there's some of these that there's not a whole lot of changes to, but I'll go through each one.
Okay.
Page 18 of 84, central services. is
can
the-
you speak up, please?
Oh, sorry. Central services, it's the operation of City Hall, janitor service, maintenance, all those basic things. Not a lot has changed. It's pretty much a status quo budget, and a lot of these are just operating expenses. There's not a lot we can, it just, costs a certain amount to maintain the building and provide those things, so, and those numbers are before you, but, and if no one has any questions, we can move on to the the public works budget. It's page 54.
And then also you've decreased your, the assets.
Yeah.
1,007 by 75, or 25, is that right?
Yes, that's correct. There has been a little bit of a decrease on that.
Appreciate you doing that. All right, now what on the next page, or where are we
Page
going?
54 of 84,
Okay,
and I'm going in order.
right, hold on, just let me get to 54. All right, I'm right here.
And again, a lot of this I've gone over in the budget workshops. Most of the line items are the same as the previous year. There's been some increases, some decreases. Obviously the biggest of which is the is the paving budget. I believe out of this budget, that's the only item that Robert has adjusted. He's adjusted the electric for the streetlights a little bit, but it was a minor adjustment. On page 55, account 936, I had it at 2 million. It's been reduced down to 1 million. All the other items are pretty close to what we had last year. I'd be happy to speak to any of those if you had any questions. I know I've mentioned this before in the past, but the animal carcass disposal, that is the removal of dead deer. I think what's surprising to me is like we spend a lot of money on that. Well, it's I guess relative, but I mean there's people hit deer with their cars, they die. They call us and we go out and we pay. Some of those we can remove ourselves, but some we have to pay a company to remove those from the street. And I mean we'll get a monthly invoice and there may be 15 or 20 deer that we're having to pay for to remove every month.
And we don't have a problem with deer in Hendersonville.
Right. Yeah.
So you're taking that out?
No, I've increased it. Animal carcass disposal, 638. Last year, the reason I increased is because I think we spent more. It's hard to estimate for one, but we spent a lot of money in that, and so.
Do we contract that out?
We do.
What is it per carcass?
It depends on the size. The smaller ones, it may range like 120 to 160. The bigger ones, it'll be over $200.
And that's disposal, they pick it up and dispose of it.
That's correct.
And we need to contract that out because we don't have the manpower in-house to do that.
Yes. There's some that we're able to remove if they're, this is kind of morbid, but if they're small enough, we can remove those. But a lot of times it's more feasible to hire the company to do it. I'm working with Trace to find a way, because I know Metro has the same problem. So we're trying to find some ways, if there are ways to save money on that, some different methods of removing the deer. We'll certainly evaluate those and try to save as much money as we can. But anyway, that's.
What about line item for brush pickup? And is there a line item for limb and brush pickup in the budget?
No. We have salaries, for those employees in the budget, and we have. Last year we did an appropriation, or I think an encumbrance to buy a truck, a limb truck. And so there's other than employees and the trucks they use to pick up the limbs, there's not a whole lot of expense.
And we have
Then you got the fuel.
four limb trucks?
Yes.
How many claws do we have?
Four.
And are they operating?
Yeah, I just talked to Trace, and I think he mentioned this a couple days ago. The one we ordered last year it's about to be here. So once we have that, we'll have one brand new one, and we'll have three or four more that are operational and working. So we'll have
5 trucks.
Yeah, we'll have more than enough. We'll have some reserve in case one breaks down. We'll be able to, not skip a beat and keep on going.
And do we have personnel for those trucks and claws,
Mhm.
specialized people that
Yes.
can operate them?
Yes. Yeah.
So at one time, how do you, as a manager, determine how many claw trucks to send out on a daily basis to pick up limbs and brush?
Trace does a lot of that. We'll routinely we have routes all over town, and obviously certain times a year there's more limbs out when we have storms in the spring and fall. But we try to maintain a 3 to 4 week route. So we'll have trucks, every 3 to 4 weeks, you'll see a truck come by. And obviously, when there's storms, you may have to Trace will have to move some people around to put more trucks out on the road to try to achieve that same goal.
So in this budget, are you comfortable that we can maintain the 3 to 4 week interval pickup in the city of all the wards?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay. Let's see. Talked about. Yeah. A lot of these line items, the amounts, like I said, they remain the same. I tried to decrease a few that I could decrease.
So our big picture in this one will be pretty much paving.
Yeah, and I do want to, and we'll get there eventually, but I do want to point out that obviously we have two sources of paving money, and the one is supplemental paving,
Right.
obviously, and then the other is State Street Aid, and that is the gas tax. That's money that we get every month. Now, obviously, it's not that much, but we can, if supplemental paving went away, we could still afford to pave some streets based on what we get through that revenue source. I'm averaging, but we may get about $50,000 every month from State Street Aid that we could spend on paving. That's not a lot. It's not a lot, but there's still some paving that could be done, without this. So whatever is in supplemental paving, I couple that with State Street Aid, and that's kind of the total.
But it's real important, because if you look at the State Street Aid and just think that's for paving, that's not a correct way to state it.
No.
Because greater than 50% of
Yes.
State Street Aid goes to personnel costs.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, Marshall, when you're asked by the board,
Yeah.
please make sure
Yeah.
that is stressed, that you can't look at this amount, because that gives us a false sense of security.
Right, and
A lot of
once
people think that too.
the State Street
Yeah,
Aid.
it's our job to tell the board,
Yeah.
to remind them, because they will still,
$1.3 million.
Well,
And
we've got
that's what
plenty
they
of money.
think, and it goes to
And that-
employees
Yeah.
and their job, and not,
And then that is spelled out in the budget for State Street Aid.
I guess
It
it's my
shows,
responsibility to do that, actually.
yeah, it shows all the different areas where we spend that gas tax. And like you said, a lot of it is salaries. And that whatever we spend in that account, it just takes away, it could take away from paving. But that's virtually the only other source of money we have for paving. But the one thing I do want to point out is the timing, the timing of when we get that money. Like, for example, the supplemental paving is coming from the general fund.
Right.
And that money, even though we're showing $1 million or whatever we show in that account, we really don't have access to that money until we get our property taxes paid. And so the only money theoretically that we would really even be able to pave with between now and spring of next year is State Street Aid.
All right, let's think outside the box on that, because I've thought about that problem before.
Yeah.
So if this board approves the budget of $1 million in supplemental paving, you will not be able to pave until next spring.
With the only, and we worked it out. We worked it out last year with Rogers Group to do a deal. We worked it out to do a payment system to where they would allow us, knowing we would get that money, we would start paving this fall, and then make minimum payments every month on that work until we got our property taxes paid, and then we'd pay them off.
Okay, so answer this question. If we approve $1 million in the supplemental paving, when will we be able to pave from that account?
We could pave. We could spend every dime of it this fall.
I just don't want us. What I'm paying him for.
Yeah, I mean, we could pave. I mean, we already have the roads spelled out of what we're going to pave. And it's, it's about $1 million.
But I think what Alderman Robertson's getting at is, do we physically have the funds to cover it and all of our other expenses?
No.
That $1 million.
We wouldn't pay,
To make sure we're good.
well, that's what we
Make
did.
sure we're
what we-
whole on that.
What we did this past, well, this March, February, we kind of toted the note with Rogers Group until February and March on the paving they did the previous year.
Will they do it again this year?
Yes, yeah,
Well,
yeah, So
have you
we'll-
talked to them about it and whether they're good with that?
yeah.
Okay.
So, I'll do another letter like I did this last year with Rogers Group, just to formalize it.
I don't want us, if the board approves
Yeah.
supplemental paving, my inclination is that we start paving
Immediately.
some of these roads in your ward and your ward that needs paving.
Thank
You know, when I go out Indian Lake, that road out Indian Lake,
Yeah.
it's bad. I mean, and that's a major thoroughfare in the city. Also, Mr. Evans, what road did he,
So Saunders Ferry.
is that in your ward?
Yes, sir.
That-
We have
that
we have a
needs-
mile on the books right now to pay.
So I'm just saying, Marshall, let's not wait until next year
Yeah,
if Rogers Group will float the note.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, that brings me, since you brought up Saunders Ferry Road, that brings me to another, I hate Band-Aid paving is what I call it, where we do a tenth of a mile, a tenth of a mile, a tenth of a mile, and that was 2 years ago, 4 years ago, 6 years ago, and you go bloop, 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 bloop across all three of these speed bumps that are down the middle of Saunders Ferry, Walton Ferry Road, to go pick one. If you drive down Saunders Ferry, you're going to see what I'm talking about, what Mr. Evans is complaining about. I would like to see us come up with I was going to ask Marshall if he'd get me a price from Main Street to Curtis Crossroads to pave that entire road. We're talking $1 million, I'm sure. 'Cause it's a pretty good sized road, and we also need to establish some new curbs, because shoulders, hey, God bless you if you go off the side of the road down there, buddy, especially at the curve right there before Creekwood Marina, you've just hit a guardrail and tore your car all to pieces. If somebody's walking there, you've killed somebody. I mean, that's just to face it, that's one of the most dangerous roads in Hendersonville. It's been like that for 30 years. And I know we have it on the MPO list. If Keith was here, he could talk about it. It's being scored right now by the state of Tennessee to be updated, the entire road, and that's a great thing. But here again, MPO is going to take you 20 years to get that done. I mean, that's just the long and short of it.
And that's
So-
why, Pat, I have agreed with you and the chairman. Let's put as much money in supplemental pay,
Right.
because that needs to be done. You've got roads in your ward, I do, you know, and so that's
Yeah.
why
Harbor Town, Harbor.
these aldermen, our
Riviera,
aldermen,
but Riviera.
our aldermen come to this committee begging to pave their roads.
Amen.
But this limits us.
That's exactly
So,
right.
I know I'm
And-
preaching to the choir.
Yeah, we're getting there, and that's right. We're all going to get there. We all realize that supplemental payment is what we got to do, and we got to get it to the, like I said, the $3 to $3.5 million a year for the foreseeable future. I mean, for here on out, it's going to have to be up there. I think we're all in agreement on that. Everybody sitting here at this table.
So, Marshall, I've got some questions on the capital projects under
Yes.
Public Works.
Yes, sir.
It's page 80, it says 72.
Page 70, isn't it?
70.
Or in mine, it's 70.
Okay.
So let's look at some of the big items that you are suggesting to pay. And I'm not necessarily looking at the source of the revenue. They may be governor, they may be other ways to pay for them. But let's look at some of these big items. And I know that this has been on the list time and time again, and this is the street lights still on here for Homestead and Savo Bay?
I think,
120,000? It is on this one. And my question, Dave, have you looked at that possibility of maybe delaying that a year if we need to?
I think Robert took that out.
It's a zero on the percent change,
it
so
was it's in this fiscal
It's in
year.
this.
it's in this one right here at 120. It's still there.
So that's,
I think Robert took it out and moved it to that other list of capital
Oh.
projects that were on the,
The
down
governor's,
the road.
or okay, the other.
Yeah, it's not on the governor's list.
Page are you on?
70. Again, this is not the latest version.
Be
I
about
assume.
3 items up from the bottom.
Yeah.
And I know that's important. I don't even know what wards those are in, but
Ward 1.
I just know that to me, there are other things more important than
I think
streetlights.
that's what we looked at too. We took them out right now.
Okay, well, good. Well, Then the other question I have is
Yeah,
on,
that was one that needed to be. I mean, I even hate to say that, but yeah,
It could be bumped off another year.
I think it can be.
I think it is.
so the other thing I would like to talk about, and I don't know a lot about this, Marshall and Dave, but we have $205,000 in the ADA project. And I know that we need to make our city accessible, but I'm asking, can we reduce that any?
We have a contract signed, that work is happening right now. And so there wouldn't be any way, and we'd have to terminate the contract and
Not do that.
stop work, and, I don't know that we can,
I don't think that's gonna happen.
yeah, I don't know
I
if
think
we can do that.
we put 250,000 in for next year in ADA, and I think we put it back to 200. I think we took 50,000 out of that.
Okay.
Because the work that we thought we'd be starting to ramp up in July it'll be shifted down the road a
Yeah.
little bit.
So we're talking about a different thing, aren't we, Marshall?
Yeah.
Well, the ADA, I think, make sure I'm talking about the right, ADA Transition Plan Phase 2. Is that?
This
is that
is
$205,000.
205, it was
That's
first.
what you're talking about, yes.
Yes.
Right. Yes, that's money, that's money that's being spent. Like, we're actively working on that project now.
So it's been spent before it's been
But no,
appropriated?
I'm sorry, we have entered into an agreement with a consultant to do that work. And they've been working on, that's what I think you were part of maybe a survey or a call.
Yeah, I was a part of it, all right.
Recently.
Yeah.
And so
Exhausting.
yeah. So anyway, but that's what's happening currently.
So is there any way that we can reduce that amount if we need to balance a budget?
No.
Now, we've entered into an agreement, like several months ago to do that work, and I don't think there's any way to change that. But I think that one thing that may help is the email I sent you last night, that in talking with Robert, we've identified several projects that we're going to move out of this list into the bond. One is the Rockland Road project.
Mhm.
Another is the Indian Lake widening project,
The tip,
the tip, and then the third is the Walton Ferry New Shackle intersection project. And so the $300,000, the 1.32 million, and another $300,000 is going to be moved out of this list and into the bond.
Now, the Rockland Road, that's being reimbursed, isn't it, 80%?
Yes.
So
we're going to collect from all those projects. Well,
so how do you put that in a bond if you're being reimbursed for it?
I'm not sure. I
You
can't.
have to pay
you
for
have
it
to pay
up
for it
front.
up front, and then they reimburse you as
You
you
pay-
submit your payments. Then they
And you get
reimburse
that
you
money
back
back,
80%
you can
back.
use it for whatever you need.
You pay 100%, then they turn around and pay you back 80%, and then you put it back into your a fund and pay for the next phase, and then you turn around and get reimbursed. It's just to take 20% away of it every time you
Yeah.
pay a step. So that's how that works.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, if we need to go back over that, Eddie, we can, on how that's done, or
No, I had,
because I remember the first time they told me that, and I'm gonna be really honest with you, I said, now what? Because I had to hear it again,
Yeah,
years
80/20 or
ago,
whatever.
but it took me a couple, times
I
for somebody
just,
to tell me.
and maybe Robert can answer this. I know there are a lot of stipulations on bonds.
That's
What you
correct.
can use bonds for.
Yes, sir.
Can you use bonds for upfront capital expenditure that you're going to be reimbursed 80%?
Yeah.
I
we've
want to
had-
ask that question.
Ask him, and he should tell you, yes, you can, because
Because
we've certainly done it.
we've had other projects.
We've done it before, yeah.
We've had other projects we've done that
Okay.
on.
All right.
Yeah.
But I'd put a star by that question right there and ask Robert.
What's the Indian Lake widening road?
That is the widening of Indian Lake from Main Street going back to Sequoia, like past Nannyberry.
Top of the hill
Oh.
past Nannyberry, there's two
Right.
schools, the schools on down through there, basically wanting to widen.
It'd be
the road.
five lanes.
Okay,
all the way
and
back.
so that'd take care of paving up to that point
Yes.
Yes, sir.
of that?
Yes.
Okay, well, that makes me feel better then.
Yeah.
That makes me
Yep.
feel better about that.
And we also have the stormwater utility stuff too, that We'll help take care of some paving and whatnot, you know.
Where we, where we.
Where we can.
Where we
you know.
can.
And the Sanders Ferry walking trail, did you say that that's been postponed?
I think Rob's gonna, is he gonna move that one too or not?
No, we could have, I mean,
It's postponed for a while.
I just picked Walton Ferry Old Shackle.
Okay.
I mean, it could have just as easily been the Sanders Ferry.
Yeah.
Well, is that $2.4 million for that project?
Yeah.
Walton Ferry,
Which, again, we're going to get a lot of that. It's another project where, 80% of that we're going to get back. And so that number reflects,
Yeah.
we're going to need that, but there'll be revenue coming back to us in the form of a reimbursement.
80%.
Yeah.
Well, that's a big line item in the budget, though, $2.5 million for a
that's
walking
Saunders Trail
trail.
or is, okay, Walton
For a
Ferry.
walking
That's Walton
trail.
Ferry and.
Folks, I think you need to look at that.
Old Shackle, excuse me.
This is Saunders Ferry Walking Trail.
Yeah.
We looked at it
$2.5
before
million.
during the concession crisis.
Been looked at for about 15 years.
Couldn't say it's been
Pretty
looked at for a
much.
long time, and I had a lot of people down in Ward 1, Ward 2 and Ward 1 that they would prefer to have that walking trail all the way down the shoreline, but it's going to jump, when it gets down to Mallard Park, it's supposed to turn right and go up to Lakeside Park and go out Lakeside Park to Curtis Crossroads, then come back down to Saunders Ferry
Yeah.
Park.
The question you need to ask Robert is if you remove these projects, some of these from the budget request, is what is the impact of that on the unreserved fund balance?
That's why.
Because these
yeah.
are not, these projects are not part of the unreserved fund balance. They're reserved, they've been
No,
taken care of
The reason we're doing it
many
is.
years. And
well,
I think if you remove them, it will help the unreserved
Yes.
fund balance, but I don't know if it will help the unreserved fund balance to the tune of the total amount of the project, if it's an
I guess,
80/20 project.
I guess, Andy,
Yeah.
if I had my choice, instead of 1.5 million for a walking trail, I'd like to put turf on 2 of your fields.
I would love that.
Well,
That'd be great.
I think that would
don't know that
benefit
you
the
can-
city greater.
I don't know what
than a
all is
walking
involved in
trail.
this in terms of what grants have been applied for, or what
we're
there's
of
a
all.
state grant.
may be obligated.
Yeah, of all the ones we've listed, we're contractually obligated to complete those projects.
That's what I'm,
This started before I became an alderman, walking
Yeah.
trail down Saunders Ferry. That was like 2 years prior to me being elected, so that's now an 8-year-old project.
yeah, a lot of these are obligated for through
Yeah.
the state or
Yeah.
other places.
And it's been kicked back because the engineering came back. They wanted to use stainless steel pontoons to
Right.
float the
Float
floating
bridge.
part of the 2,000 linear foot of floating walking trail behind Moby Dickie's and down through there. Was going to be a floating trail. What I'd like to see them do is cantilever it. And like down in Florida, most of us been to Florida, we've seen where they have swampland or lake area, they put an elevated walkway that goes alongside the road there. Well, why don't we just do the same thing?
I just don't think
down
these are,
Saunders Ferry Road?
these are not necessarily projects where Marshall has said, this is my wish list.
Yeah, these are things that this is certainly not my wish list. These are things that have been on the books for years.
Some of them
and we
20
have
years.
we have to finish. The street light thing, I guess that is one that we could, do something with, but.
But Eddie, to answer your question, the reserved and unreserved money, this is what you need to ask Robert to, he can clarify that for
Yeah.
you. It's confusing to me, too, of
It's-
what's reserved, what's unreserved, what needs to be put in a certain,
Yeah.
another.
I think that's why we're going through the exercise of moving this money into the bond, is to make it,
Free up.
yeah.
Well, am I the only one that doesn't understand the reserve, non-reserve?
No, sir, you're not.
Because if it is, I'll just ask Robert 101.
No, I think the whole board needs to hear that, and then department heads too.
That's true. The way, so if you ask Robert, what's our fund balance right now? He may tell you our fund balance is $14 million.
Right.
I got that.
But our unreserved fund balance is probably 3 or 4. Because all these projects are part of the
Fund balance.
reserved fund balance, but it's just money sitting in the bank. So perhaps if you take a couple of these and put them in a bond,
Yeah.
you free up more in the unreserved portion of your fund balance. If that makes,
That's how
that's
that's
layman's
what-
terms as
yeah.
I can get it.
Yeah. using some cash up front to put something on your credit card to put a triple of cash today for
Well,
something
you know,
else.
you never would want to bond for operating expenses, like,
No.
if at all possible,
No.
ever, like we did with paving.
That's what we did.
And on the library, did you take that out, Dave? The
That was-
$90,000?
Yeah.
No, there's a question there that, and I think that was a question I had, it was 80,000,
It was
60,000?
I think it was 90. And that was taken out. That was on the next sheet that has has it listed, but library renovations, Monhaven HVAC and Senior Center HVAC were all removed. But the one thing to remember is the Senior Center HVAC is going to be completed with money from CBDG in planning. And so that project will still get done. And we can probably make it, the Monhaven HVAC, we can try to make it another year on the equipment that we have. And the library renovations, that was at the request of speaking with the library director. And obviously, I think Dave is aware of this, but we've had several conversations over the past several months, and this is well before the pandemic hit. But looking at our county, I've realized that every city has its own unique situation with their library.
Right.
There's not really a set standard for how the county and that city operate a library. I mean, some cities, you pay and fund to run their library entirely, and the county isn't involved. In some situations, the county is more involved, and in our situation, it's they operate the library, and we have an agreement to help maintain it to a certain level, and they've asked us, with the age of the library and everything else involved, is to help increase our participation in that. And so that's the numbers that I presented was just an effort to try to help get it painted, make some improvements to it. And it certainly wasn't. I mean, it was just of course at their request, and also to kind of help make it look nice. So, but
Yeah, that was one of the things we cut, and we felt under
Yeah.
the circumstances, we couldn't go forward with some improvements. I'd like to paint and do some things, but
Yeah.
kind of like you said, we just at a crossroad, we have to pick and choose what projects are important and what are, well, can we wait a little while? Probably. So that's kind of where we are with that.
And I also think Alderman Sprouse had mentioned something about that our relationship with the county with that. I don't know, Pat, if you remember anything on it or not, but I think it was our last meeting. I think he asked something about that for us to check into.
Second budget workshop, I provided.
City.
I think I provided a copy of the memorandum of understanding that we have with them that kind of outlines what we do.
So I'm not sure they ever signed it.
No, it was never signed. But I think we've kind of, even though it wasn't signed, we've been, I think, kind of operating on
that premise. Okay.
Um,
I'll have to call Coach Sprouse on that and see what he says.
Good luck with that one.
In looking at every potential revenue source, I brought up the drug fund money, and Dave, you were supposed to be looking into that and giving us a report, because it's clear to me from MTAS that we can use that money for a broader use of purposes in the police department than we have been in the past. And at the end of this year, there's going to be over $250,000 left in the fund balance, and we sure could use that money. I know the police department may be reluctant, but I hope that you're still looking at that.
Robert and I had a discussion yesterday, and he's got your answer for you as far as using that money. He and Bradley feel that could be an acceptable use. You're going to get some pushback, but that's a discussion for you and the chief to have. Alderman will decide that.
Let me say, I intend at the meeting Monday or Tuesday to make the motion to use that fund to help buy police cars and to take the savings from those police car monies out of the governor's budget and to pay for the tennis court paving and to pay for the police department paving. And I've got the numbers that it will work. And I'll present them to the board. That way we can pave the tennis courts that need it and also the police department. So just give y'all a heads up. I said that because that has something to do with parks and public works.
And those are the kind of things that we expect you guys to, we don't have votes over here, you guys do. So those are the kind of things that we've taken out and that you want to present to move around. That's what you guys paid the big bucks for.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Did you get the answer too, that if you can do that by, at the end of the day, does the motion need to be to direct the police chief to do that, or is it still his final decision?
No.
No, it'll be theirs.
I've looked up the law and I sent it to Bradley and.
Yeah, it's
and
their decision to make that motion.
TCA puts that responsibility on two people, him and the police chief.
Gotcha.
That's right out of TCA. So,
So you do have the answer.
Hmm?
You do have the answer. I just remember that was a question. Sorry, I shouldn't even be asking.
No, you're
I don't
fine,
know what I'm
because
doing.
I don't know.
I forgot I was not the parks
have to-
director.
I'll just have to look at it, get
Sorry.
online in Westlaw and look at it.
The one,
See what it says.
one thing I did want to point out on the bond, I did request the roundabout project on Drake's Creek be put in the bond.
The what again, say?
The roundabout project, which is as you enter Durham Farms.
Right. I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, I felt like it was appropriate. We obviously, we have a good portion of the money already in our account.
What page, John?
This is not in this sheet.
Okay.
It's something I sent Robert yesterday, but the idea is that we have over, I think, over $500,000 to get started, and we need a little bit more to complete that, but over time, we will get paid back in permit fees.
from Durham and the other developments.
Yes,
Correct.
exactly.
And so it'll be, in some ways, it'll be we'll pay out the money up front, but over maybe 2 or 3 or 4 years.
It'll be a typical washout.
Yeah, we'll be made whole through those permit fees. And it'll allow us to go ahead and build it now instead of having to wait. Anyway, that was the only thing I
Well, I
wanted
know
to add.
the people would appreciate that.
Yeah. Oh, and I don't know if this is really something for the budget, but the $50,000, there's $50,000 that Durham had set aside for a pedestrian bridge in the park, which I'm not entirely sure, there's really not enough money to build a pedestrian bridge for $50,000. And instead, I'm proposing to use that money for the rugby field, for the water and sewer lines. That would.
Where was the pedestrian bridge going to be? Over Avan or over the creek?
Over the creek at Avan to the
To the-
acreage,
all-
all the acreage back there. I
Well, we
told them
need
when
a
they-
road over there, don't we?
That's right, so we're gonna put
Yeah, it needs to
a
be a
dry
real
bridge.
bridge.
Yeah, we don't need a walking.
What we don't need is people just walking around over there on our.
They said where the rugby is, they said they can use that as a parking lot, they can walk over the walk, but they said that's not gonna work. They'll be like walking from here down to, Saunders Ferry Road. I said, those people are not gonna walk that far. There's gonna have to be a dry bridge over there. And I said, well, we'll take the 50,000 and put it towards something.
Yeah.
And that was the original agreement that we made with Bill Charles before they started Durham Farms.
Good.
Let's see.
Yeah, can you imagine the ADA compliance from walking from here down to Saunders Ferry Road?
They got a big lake in Durham Falls.
You want to go through the governor's local grant request projects? Or
What page are you on, brother?
72. And Dave, I'm assuming, like, what's in this is dated June 1st. This is the final version of that list.
Yeah, because he had it at 1.6 and he's got it down to 1.297, so
Okay.
he's got to 1.3 plus or
okay.
minus. So this is what we've kind of come up with as a final list
Yeah.
of projects.
and I'll go through these, I've mentioned this in the budget workshop, but the Public Works traffic signal maintenance, the Indian Lake corridor, $25,000. What that consists of is, if you have noticed, our new signal over by the YMCA has yellow backplates on the signal. You know, the majority of that money is going to look at all the signals along that corridor and just improving the visibility, just kind of improving the overall safety of those signals by placing back those yellow backplates on those.
Well, okay, what would that, I know that would be the one at Saundersville Road.
Yeah,
And then
I mean,
that
there's Maple, there's Anderson, there's two, you know, Saundersville.
Winston Hills.
Winston,
Yeah?
yeah.
Well, that's
So,
what Saundersville.
Main Street. So really, we just looked at all the signals along that corridor of Indian Lake. Hopefully, certainly if we have money left over, we can just look at more signals, but we just kind of focused in on Indian Lake. You know, the ADA, same thing with ADA projects. You know, the $200,000, that was an effort to look at the existing ramps on the sidewalk and just making sure that all those intersections were compliant for accessibility purposes. The IT hardware upgrades, that's looking at getting more laptops just to be able to to function in case we have to work from home again. Let's see. Signal, last one for Public Works is the signal replacement at Rockland Road and Main Street. If you remember, you know, it might have been a couple of years ago at this point, but we've gotten a payment from Racetrack, $50,000, that has to be spent at that intersection. And so my thought was we could take that money and couple it with this and then redo that entire intersection.
The hardware.
Well, not only the hardware, but right now they just have the gray metal poles with span wire connecting the signals. If we did, it would essentially, when it was done, it had the black, mast arms with this. There'd be no wires, no gray metal poles.
Improve the look.
Yeah, it'd make it look a lot better. So.
Chairman Seymour, if I can interrupt real quickly.
Oh, yes, sir. Hey, I didn't even see you come in.
No, you're fine. I've been on calls, and I hate that it's been an hour and 50 minutes before I walk in here. If y'all need anything, because I have to leave in like 10 minutes.
Oh, gosh. No, I'm just glad to see you and glad you're corona free or I guess.
We'll listen to my.
But no, but I will, just for the record, and also on TV and everybody, that our mayor's here, stepped in for just a second to say hi to us. Are y'all clear with the mayor? Do y'all have any questions for him?
I think we're
Right
very,
there.
very
Okay.
much on the same page when it comes to road paving. I heard y'all talk in the last Zoom meetings. That has not become less of a priority.
Good.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, there's your mic. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you, please.
I will say,
Thank you.
while the mayor is here, at a future meeting, maybe the next Public Works meeting,
Yep.
maybe, I would appreciate if you would invite the people that collect our garbage.
Okay.
I'm seeing more and more complaints in my ward. I don't know if y'all are, but I would just like.
We get them all the time. to be
Yeah,
honest with
I'd
you.
like for them to come and just us have a general discussion. No crucifixion.
Right.
At this time will be contemplated. But I'd just like for them to come and answer some questions.
Could we also ask them to bring a list of complaints and misses?
Would you write that for me?
Eddie, would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah. And I think,
Complaints and
Marshall, you're
misses,
keeping
yeah.
those, aren't you?
Yeah, they're in our, we log, everything that's called in, emailed, it's logged into the database, and we track, we
On
track
a
all those.
percentage basis, how does it look in percentages compared to the former company?
It's hard, the coronavirus is,
And I understand that
May-
is a big difference right there.
caused.
Yeah.
It's hard to know with that. I mean, it's, the bulk item was obviously delayed for several weeks, and trying to get that back going again, it's been difficult, but I think, I mean, compared to the other company, it's not really apples to apples comparison just because of what's happened, but, but we can, we can provide any reporting that we need to.
All right.
Anything else for the mayor while he's here?
I did have one item on the agenda
Oh.
last time, and I hope we can discuss that soon. It's about currently we exempt properties from our stormwater that are owned by government or government agencies, and also exempt properties that don't use our stormwater, basically the properties that back up to the lake.
Right.
But I'd like to include those that are nonprofit, that are 501c organizations owned by them.
All right, yeah, and we'll put that down. When do we meet, I mean, as far as?
Fourth.
On the
Fourth Tuesday.
fourth Tuesday, okay, so,
About 3 weeks out.
yeah, it'll probably, honestly, Mayor, it'll probably be about 3 weeks unless you need something that's more important, we can always call a special call. It's up,
We all have enough going on. I can be patient.
well, I appreciate that, because we'll just put that on in our fourth.
Well, I'm hoping at this stage of the game, and I know there's still some issues with Steve Brown and Mr. Waters, and legitimate issues, I'm not critiquing that, to meet in person.
Amen.
But
On the
they've got
budget or
they've
just
got the
on?
room set up here for us to be able to be distant, and I think by the 26th, the 24th, whatever the second meeting is that we need to meet here. I mean,
Okay,
the
that's,
Public Works Committee can meet, in here before the meeting or whatever. I just think it's very difficult to do a Zoom meeting with the budget and the importance of this budget and the importance of the committees and things like this, to meet on Zoom. It's good that we have it, don't get me wrong, and it's been great to work with, but I think the actual meeting in here for that second reading of the budget could, something that we need to do.
Amen. I agree.
I agree with you.
But, and here's the other factor, I think my guy here can tell me, they have got it worked out where, let's say Mr. Brown and Mr. Waters and somebody else can't make it, they will be able to view, watch YouTube, live feed, the whole thing, just what everything's going on in here. They've got it where they can hook up everything, just like a Zoom meeting, correct? They're working on it, but they think they can, okay, where they can, they could, Mr. Waters could call in, or Steve could call in and ask a
Projector.
question and so on, so.
Maybe put them on a projector.
Yeah, but they've got the projector hooked up where you guys can see the budget and everything. So IT's worked really, really hard to get it set up to make it safe, but also make it effective, that everybody can see what's going on the screen and everything. So I hope we can do that by the end of the month.
And I'd like to say this, now that we're, I guess, through with the budget, as a parting gesture with you and the mayor here. I think that the interim directors, department directors, during this time have done a phenomenal job. Every one of them, there's 3 of them, right?
Yes, sir.
I think they have stepped up, they've showed leadership, and I would encourage our CA to consider filling those positions. I just think our interims have done great, and I just wanted to say that for the record.
Well, that's forthcoming.
You won't get 100% votes, but you never do.
You never do, but we were trying to get to the first reading of the budget, but that is in the very near future.
Okay, thank you.
Got several things cooking, that's one of them that we need to move forward with, and you're right, the whole staff's been able to get through this thing.
And
Done
while we're
well.
doing kudos, Dave, I want to thank you.
Well,
You've stepped on a lot of toes and personal friends
Well,
in this process, but you've stepped up, and I want to thank you for your diligent and conscientious efforts to get us through this. Thank you.
again, it hasn't always been pretty, we haven't always agreed, but at the end of the day, we can still be friends and still get the job done in the city that we need to get done. Again, we're not always going to agree on everything. So it is. One of the last thing I'll say is that my request to the board on Tuesday night is that what I'm going to do, I told the other committees this, is that whatever public safety, whatever general, whatever you guys kind of agree on to forward to the board or agree to, I'm going to present what these guys have presented to me. I'm not, that's why, I'm not gonna make any cuts from here to Tuesday, go in there and do something, you know what, we need to take another 30,000 here and there. What we've discussed, what Robert's put in the budget, is what we're gonna send to you guys.
What you're going with,
request.
in other words,
So,
that's
yeah.
what you're going, that's the
Yeah,
budget.
we're going with what you guys, what we've talked about in here.
Right.
There's not gonna be any surprises and, like, what happened to that money, or where did that come from?
Right.
And, but legitimate questions like that.
That's fair.
Like the drug fund money, that's legitimate and needs to be thrown out there,
So let me ask the chairman this question.
Yes,
Since
sir.
we've talked about the drug fund dealing with parks and also with public works about the paving of those two,
Yes, sir.
would it be appropriate for us to discuss that and to make a motion and take it to the board? Because I know that safety is probably going to have some recommendations. I know that finance may. So is that something that we need to act on so that we can go as a united front?
Well, I think personally, let me just think a minute.
Yeah, please do.
Because I'm trying to do the politics of it. Yeah, it would, I think, because then it would hopefully solidify some votes that that motion would need to pass the board. And then also, we need to make double sure, because I'm gonna research it this weekend, where Bradley, has he already, and correct me, because I know we spoke about it, but just correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, or Eddie, he's already agreed that we could do it, right, on the drug?
He's okay.
Because, I mean, it makes sense to me, but I wanted to look to see if, to clarify in my own mind whether it's true, and I'm almost thinking we can, but I think we would need a form of a motion.
So I've got MTS documentation that says we can do it, their
Right.
interpretation of the law.
Okay.
Marshall, could you get somebody to make copies for Mark and
Yeah.
Pat?
Yeah,
So
I'll do
that
it.
you can have that for your own. I don't want to put you and Pat in a difficult position.
Sure.
But I do think that if you think it has merit,
I
For
do.
this
I
one
think that's
time.
merit.
Oh, I do.
for this one time only,
Right.
to pay for these two important projects, the parks and public works. So I'll be happy after you read that, look
Sure.
at it, to make a
We'll
motion.
do it today. We'll do it here in just a second, as soon as he gets back and read it.
What do you have, Pat? What do you
I
think?
think the paving of the parking lot there at the police department, I think that's perfectly fine for that. I'm not sure about the tennis courts though, if that falls in line with that, but I mean, at least it frees up money from the budget to cover
That's right.
the other
And see,
items. That's the whole thing.
And
So-
I see where you're going.
So
and
I agree with that. I mean, and instead of zeroing out that line item, though, I'd like for us to make sure that we maintain maybe $50,000 in there, knowing that a police dog could cost you, what, $12,500 or so?
You talking about the drug fund?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And plus have vet bills and things of this nature they have to pay for out of that as well.
You're looking at 52,000, or right at 50,000 for a car and equipment and lights and everything else, so you got 250, so you
I think my
got four
proposal-
cars out of it, you leave 50,000 in there.
My proposal would leave 75.
So that's good.
But
I can
that,
handle that.
and with the understanding that police department, if you need something,
Yeah.
Come to us.
we're gonna do what you
Right,
need.
right.
You know, but right now, we've got some needs that we need to meet.
I don't know if anybody's going to argue with public safety at this time.
I just don't see it. Yeah, I
I
agree.
mean,
with you.
anybody that does that, it's like, okay, there's the door.
Yeah,
Appreciate working with you.
I agree.
You're basically
I mean,
just
it-
saying, hey, I'll
yeah.
see y'all later. I don't agree. I'm out. Bye. That's basically what you're saying.
I thought I saw John Bradley just then. He had a black mask on, and he looked like the Lone Ranger for a minute.
Is he here?
There he is.
Come in, John. We're just talking
I
about
put mine on too,
the
sir.
drug fund.
I said that you look like the Lone Ranger.
Or the
Oh,
lost
there you
rate.
go. I'll join you there for a moment.
So have you opined that the paying of police cars
Thank you, bro.
out of this fund would be
Conducive.
appropriate, not appropriate, would be legal? Legal?
Maybe not appropriate. I mean, if MTS wants to take that view, I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, I've read the TCA and it's pretty clear to
It's
me.
whether or not you want to consider referring or non-referring. Some agencies consider it one way and some another. So, wish the police could just find $200,000 to be used for drug purposes, and free up that other money, but I don't know how much they're going to be able to do with that. They're trying to do that.
Well, I'm thinking of making a motion here, so you might want to listen, see if you have any. So the important part of this is on the second page at the bottom, D, non-recurring general law enforcement expenditures.
I see it down the very, very end.
Yeah,
Generally, but not always, these are fixed assets. Okay. They do not have to be, oh, well, I'm big.
Standard equipment, vehicles.
That answers that question, pretty much.
Okay.
so,
Now, what's your motion?
okay, Marshall, remind us what paving of the police parking lot and the paving of the tennis court that Andy wanted, the parking lot, at how much that would be, the total cost.
Damn.
That was in one of my old documents.
Yeah, it was in the older, let me run back to my office real fast.
Yeah, so one of us run by and get it. My old packet.
I'll be right back to
We got MTS on speed dial here lately.
I'm sure.
We've had MTAT, well, shit.
On speed dial and. Is our meeting at 1 on Zoom? Or is it here? Here?
Hey, how is Steve
Thank you.
doing, by the way? Is he all right?
Recovering.
Good.
How's who?
Steve?
Yeah, he is home.
Still a little weak. 6
I always
days with
just
no
text
solid
him,
food.
you know, and he gives me a little thank you and thumbs up, you know, and I don't want to bother him.
Fine. I mean,
It's fine, it can be under the circumstance.
Is he eating solid foods now?
I don't know about solid.
So Woodward, you okay over there? You okay over there?
Great.
Okay.
Never heard him so quiet.
No
I
kidding?
know, man, he is like quiet as a mouse.
He's got that face mask on really, really tight.
When he calls me on my phone, my wife recognizes his number. Said, "Oh, there's Gary calling again." But it's all good. I appreciate, Andy, you working with him too on this Eagle Scout project.
Yeah.
You might, while we wait, Dave or Andy, you might want to tell the chairman so he can be aware of it. Whoever. The Eagle Scouts have asked to do some service projects for merit badges. And so Andy and Trace's work, they're going to do some
Oh.
shoreline pickup.
Oh, that's great. Good, that's a,
So
that
thank you,
needs to be, hey,
Gary.
Michelle, this is Mark here. Give me a call when you can, just call me on my cell phone. I realize is it 1 o'clock there or 12, but either way, just give me a shout when you can. I apologize, you ready now?
Yeah, ready. Okay, I got the numbers for the tennis court paving and the police lot paving.
Okay.
The police parking lot is at $125,000. The tennis court is $100,000.
Okay, so
For
it'd be
a total of
225.
$225.
And the police cars fully equipped are about 52.
They said about 52, yeah.
So how many cars would we need to take out of the governor's budget and pay from the drug fund in order to fund 225? I think it's,
4.5. 4.5 or 5.
4.3 cars. If it
So-
said 5, I
so
guess.
if we take out 4, can you find the additional money?
Yeah.
What, another 20,000, or
Yeah.
how much short would be 4 cars would be?
4 cars is 208,000, so it'd be minus, it'd be, $17,000. We got to come up with.
I'm sorry.
Four cars at $52,000 is 208,000. Minus 225, which is what we have to have for the for those two parking lots is 17,000 difference.
Okay. Do you think 208 will pay for those parking lots? Have you been liberal in the estimate on that?
Yeah, we err on the side of caution, so there's a chance that it could. Yeah. Yeah. So we could just try it. I mean, go into it trying to do that and see, you know.
Yeah.
And
Then if we need more
we
later
could-
in the year,
Right.
if we need more later
Yeah.
in the year,
Well,
Yeah, yeah.
it's one of those things, if we went over on that line item, you just have to go back to you guys for the appropriation the first of the
Yeah.
year, you know.
now, and if
Yeah.
we take 208,000 out of the governor's budget for police cars and use that from the drug fund money, we will still have how much in the drug fund money? I think there was 275,000, so we'll still have about 70,000 left in the drug fund money.
Yeah.
Probably 60 plus or
67.
minus.
Yeah. So I think that meets any kind of extended emergencies that may come there. So discussion, is the board comfortable with recommending on the budget to take 4 of the police cars out of the governor's budget and pay that 208,000 from the drug fund money? And the savings, the 208,000 savings, we would use to fund the police parking lot and the tennis court parking lot out of the governor's grant. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So, so what about some discussion on that?
All right. Before we have any discussion on it, that was a motion.
I'll make the second to the
And
motion.
there was a second to the motion. Now for discussion. Does anyone need any discussion on that motion? Okay, so let's see how we want to do this. Well, by doing that, we're killing what's that old saying?
Two birds, one
Two
stone.
birds with one stone. I think that's it, isn't it?
That's it.
Yeah. You all have any discussion on it? I mean, I know y'all don't.
That's strictly up
It's
to you
up to
guys,
us,
however
I
you
know
want to do
it
it. I mean,
And that's gonna leave $67,000 in the drug fund, correct?
Did they,
That'll have enough to pay
Dave,
for
did they
the-
have anything to say about the drug fund, what either the committee or the police wanted to do with that money at all?
I mean, I think they just said they had it in there for the horse and the dogs and training and
Yeah.
just incidental things that came up
Okay.
during the year
All
that
right.
needed.
Vet bills, things of this
Yeah, I
nature.
don't- I
And
don't
how
know
much,
anything-
how much it is to train a dog? I don't think we're getting another one, but.
If you buy a dog, I think if the training is around 12.5 or something like that.
Oh,
I heard
okay.
a number of, I wanted to say.
All right.
I don't know that answer, but.
The drug fund is on page 81 in your packet. If you want to look,
Well, the reason why I'm saying that is I want to make sure that when we're attacked by it, or if we are, that we'll have our ducks in a row. I mean, I'm not,
I agree. And if this passes, I intend today to contact Chief Jones
okay.
and talk, try to
You
explain.
talk to him?
The call last week was 5 cars. He didn't like that call on Friday, so this will be another one he may not like.
Well, no, he's still getting his cars.
Yeah, he
That's
gets the
Miller,
car.
that's Mickey Miller. Now we're talking about Assistant Chief Jones, who's over the drug fund with the dogs.
We'll call you later.
Was that okay, John, what we just did then, as a committee? I mean, his
Legal.
motion?
I think it was fine. You need to have a roll call vote, of course.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right, thank you. It's good to see you.
Good to see you. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
You're
Every
I
day.
do,
okay,
brother.
but you
I
don't
will,
have,
brother.
you don't have,
I hope not. I'm gonna be tested in about 5 minutes.
okay.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Well, he goes a lot to nursing homes.
Yeah,
doesn't he?
a lot.
I've
So
been
do you
tested. It's
see-
not fun.
You see that at the end of the budget, there's projecting $275,920.
Okay.
So we would take 208 of that and let them, and purchase 4 police cars with that.
All right, Pat, do you have any question or comment on it?
No, I just, like I said, I want to make sure that we have enough money left in the balance of that fund because they do pay vet bills out of that.
Yeah,
I mean, looking at previous years, they don't spend a whole lot.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
yeah, spend a lot.
All right, does anybody need the motion? How about you, before I go through that rigmarole? Are you comfortable with that? Do you
Yeah,
feel good about it?
That's good.
And then, of course, y'all have got it, and I know y'all don't like to say anything, but you're probably comfortable with it, aren't you?
Get some tennis courts taken care of.
He's kind of,
As he said, mum's the word on his side of the table.
yeah. Well, you know, it's our job to get things for the Parks Board, and it's our job for Public Works.
You know,
And it's in bad shape.
we've all sat here a lot of times, and
Yeah.
what you're doing now has happened up there.
Oh, yeah.
People making motions to go here and get this, to go there, to do that. I mean,
That's just part of the
it's your
process.
prerogative.
That's right.
I did it when I was up there.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. All right, does anybody need the motion? Is everybody ready to vote? Since hearing is, all right. Hearing that, does anyone need the motion repeated? All right. There's been a proper motion and a proper second. And all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye when I call your name. Alderman Robertson.
Aye.
And Alderman Campbell. Sorry. And the chair votes aye as well, so we approve that motion. So who needs to let Robert know what we've done?
I'll.
You want to do that?
Yeah,
or just
yeah,
let
Dave
him
or
know
I
what
can,
we've
yeah,
done?
we can let him know.
Or Dave, I guess that's your response.
He's doing the Public Works Committee
Okay.
minutes, and then,
Yeah.
Let them know. And then what I would suggest is, you know, us as a whole, because I'm sure there'll be some of the other aldermen that might disagree, like public safety, we'll need to explain to them what the situation is. You know, this is just an unfortunate year for us all, and we're trying to stretch the dollar as far as we can. And, all right, is there anything else? We completed our job today, sir? Mr. Marshall, have we completed our
Yes,
job today?
absolutely.
And hearing no objection, I need a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, there's been a proper motion and a proper second. That's not a motion that can be discussed, so we'll go ahead and vote with it. All in favor of adjourning this meeting signify by saying aye when I call the roll, and your name, Alderman Campbell.
Aye.
And Alderman Roberson.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well, so this meeting is adjourned at 12:15.
Good meeting.
All right.
Oh,
Yes,